Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Pinch of Salt, where we'll be breaking down all 10 NACL teams in the 10 days leading up to the NACL regular season beginning. We're just 5 days away from the start of 2024 here in North America, and we're here with our 6th episode of this fun series before the season gets started, and we'll be covering our number 5 ranked team according to the community in our Power Rankings poll, and that will be Cincinnati Fear, Hawk, a team that finished around the middle of the pack, but had some very exciting finishes and just really great overall performances as in their first year in the NACL.
Oh yeah, Cincinnati Fear, they came out and they looked excellent. They made some risks. We were doubters heading into spring. We were honestly maybe even still doubters heading into summer, and this team finished top 4 in both of our splits, which was really, really impressive. And Grape, something I love about this team now, as it is only Philip returning, but they have once again taken some risks in their roster construction, right? I think this is really the only major team, right, that isn't like a collegiate program or another that has actually taken risks on young prospects. Maybe the other one coming later. But I just think this is such a cool roster off the rip. Even though they're only keeping one of their players, I feel like the spirit of Cincinnati Fear that we saw last year is sort of still within this squad.
I was one of the people this offseason that was hoping that this Fear core stuck together because they were very fun to watch throughout spring and the summer, specifically the 3 guys in the middle who stayed for both splits, and Perry, Shochi, and Minui. Of course, they've all gone on to bigger and better things, as they haven't been talked about just yet in our power rankings. So that means that the community thinks that the teams that they're on now are better than what Fear has put together here. But regardless, I think this team, as you said, is still going to be an exciting one to take a look at as we take a look at the roster that they'll be piloting here for 2024. Philip remaining on the team. Perry will be replaced by Chad in the jungle over from Mirage Alliance. Shochi out for Toasty in the mid lane, who is somebody that has really impressed in Tier 3 and one of those risks that you were talking about, Hawk. Minui for Lens, and JJ for Daption, who also is coming in for his first NACL split.
Yeah, and I want to talk about this bot lane really quick because, first of all, one of the prospects in the league in Daption, one of the new players coming in, and paired alongside Lens, someone who is thought of in extremely high regard amongst some of the personalities in the space. There's a lot of eyes on Lens this split after what he was able to do on Wildcard last year, and so a lot of excitement surrounding this player. And I think this bot lane, Grapes, we've talked about how good these bot lanes are going to be. AoE just yesterday with their super stacked Wixie Breezy. And I think Lens Daption, assuming Daption is able to rise to the stage, which I have no doubt that this player can. He is a championship winning support of the highest caliber in both Tier 3 and Collegiate over the last few years. As long as he can rise to the occasion at this level of play, this should be a really formidable 2v2. And seeing 2 up-and-coming players paired alongside each other, ready to unleash hell on the league, I'm so here for it.
It's funny calling Daption a rookie because he's been around for such a while. One of those exciting prospects you've listed there in your highlights, Hawk, because I remember this guy back when I first started, covering Tier 2, Tier 3 back in 2021 when Proving Grounds first actually ended up beginning, where Daption was a very new but exciting support on Wildcard Gaming and then Wildcard Red going into the summer split.
Just a little team called Wildcard
super
Red.
Exciting team. Yeah, was on that super exciting lineup when Arrow came back, and everyone was like, holy shit, they got Arrow to play in Tier 3, and Daption was his support, and I think he learned a lot from that. But ever since that split, we haven't seen too much of him in terms of rising up and getting that opportunity to play in Tier 2. We most recently, of course, have seen him as a part of UST in Collegiate, where they did end up taking that crown, winning the CELO Championship this past year. He's not going to be back to UST here for 2024, but he will be finally getting his opportunity and getting his flowers here in the semi-professional space. And a very exciting moment for a player like Daption, who I know people who have expressed their doubts and concerns about him over the years, but has constantly proved that he's able to play at the top of Tier 3 and now getting a good opportunity here in Tier 2.
And I think that's the thing. I think he's a player that will rise to this occasion. Whether or not he'll be the best support in the league, I have no idea, right? But I think Daption is somebody, he is a proven winner, and his skill at the Tier 3 level, I think it shows that, wherever your concerns may be for this player, I think he should be able to rise up and make some big plays. But Grapes, let's talk about the other prospect. You already alluded to him a little bit, coming off of Team Coachified, Toasty Alex, who took most of 2023 off. Coming in, I believe is still only 17 years old, starting in the NACL as a mid laner, impressed a lot of people at the scouting combines that happened during the offseason, as well as a top laner in Aegis. So he's been doing some fun stuff, getting his name out there, and he was pretty much the one rookie whose name I saw at the top of everybody's board this offseason.
Yeah, Toasty, you could call him a Cincinnati Fear veteran because he played with them in
It's
ACL,
true.
although
That's true.
it wasn't
Yeah.
a different role and it wasn't in NACL. But yeah, I mean, I remember this guy coming up in the wild card system, I believe, and then moving over to Team Fish Taco for that one split where him and Limo were like these big prospects. Unfortunately, that roster never really panned out the way that they wanted it to. But now Toasty getting his opportunity here, had a really good tournament on Coachify, where he really impressed me as somebody who, I was excited for him, of course, but just getting reminded again, watching him play in Tier 3 again, basically alongside City, bringing Coachify, a team that, did not perform well in that first qualifier, all the way up to runners-up behind Mirage Alliance in the second. And part of me thinks if, Toasty and the rest of Coachify stuck around for both of those tournaments, they could have had an opportunity to make their way into the promotion tournament over a team like Lit, which would have, caused huge ripple effects in our history and where we're standing right now. But Toasty overall, very exciting player, has some flashy picks. However, we really have only seen one good tournament from him at the top of the Tier 3 level in his career. And obviously he's a 17-year-old. He's impressed in different combines and other tournaments that he's played. But now, making his way into NACL, he's probably one of the players we surprisingly know the least about in terms of the previous VODs and experience that we have in the entire league. And, even though he is this very highly touted prospect, there's going to be some questions that hopefully he'll be able to answer, replacing somebody who was in a very similar space to him last year, like Shochi on Fear going into 2023.
Yeah, very true. And I do think this also kind of contributes to the concern that I do have about this team, as I do want to talk both about Toasty and Chad and Lens all together of who is the consistent carry, just because I'm really excited to watch Toasty play in this league, and I think he'll be very good. But at the same time, he will be a rookie, finding his way at a higher level of play here. And, I don't think you're automatically going to be able to rely on him to carry game in and game out. And then that leaves Chad and Lens as the other two big carries in Grapes. I will say, I hold especially Lens and Chad as well in high regard. I think these are two great players, but they have been known for their volatility. Chad in particular is a player that is known for his very, very volatile, snowball win more play style. And sometimes it's going to hit, and sometimes Cincinnati Fear, I think, is going to steamroll some games. But I also do worry that there might be moments in which we don't necessarily have someone for Fear that we can fall back on to carry game in and game out. So I wonder who that'll end up being. I mean, I would think it would have to be Lens. I think Lens is very good. But
I have the answer for you, Hawk. The answer is Lens. I mean, this guy...
But I got to see it, because it wasn't... on Wildcard, Lens was very good, but he wasn't necessarily that game in, game out guy as well, right?
I think he kind of was, especially going towards the end of the split. I mean, I think I'm one of the higher... people who's higher on Lens than maybe other members of the community that we have here in the NACL, but I was very impressed from him from the start of 2023, and especially going down the line throughout the summer split when he was on Wildcard. Got to play with a support in Don Bray who was able to really pick him up. Team fighting was amazing. I think the laning phase is something that Lens is very strong in, and I don't know if the numbers necessarily back that up, but I just have a ton of 2v2 kills in my head, in my memory, that I feel like he was able to show off in ways that the only other marksman in the space that I feel like was able to show flashes that hard in the early game was someone like Masu. So I am very excited about Lens, and I think that he is going to be that guy for Fear.
I think Lens is very good. I guess I just mean, like, on Wildcard, not every single game was necessarily about Lens, right? And I do think on Fear, there might be a lot of positions where Lens is going to have to be big, or this team might struggle. And hey, I mean, it may happen. This could be, I think, a huge breakout carry split for Lens, because like you said, he did have a great performance last year, and I definitely do not want to downplay his skill and his ability to carry games. Just, game in, game out. This team is going to need somebody with especially mid-jungle volatility.
I saw a tweet by Lens earlier in the year saying, "Hey guys, I haven't really found a team for the split," and I was like, "What? Are these teams crazy not picking this guy up?" And then, of course, he obviously signed with Fear eventually and ended up settling. But man, it was very surprising to see him kind of teamless for a while, and I'm glad that somebody was finally able to pick him up. As we round out our highlights and areas of concern here, the one thing I haven't really talked about too much, maybe we alluded to it a bit at the start, the vibes on this team just incredible, and I'm excited to see how they all work together as a unit. You keep the biggest vibes guy in the scene in Philip on your team from last year. This guy both is a great top laner. We've seen him deliver in LCS and here in NACL, but also just so funny. Seems like a great teammate.
Yeah.
Pair that alongside Chad and Daption, who are just some of the nicest people in the world, and Toasty and Lens I think are going to get along just fine with these guys. And we know that Fear is a team that has a ton of content that they consistently like to churn out, and I hope that continues here for 2024 with this group of 5.
Yeah, I do know that Philip and Toasty are already friends as well. I feel like I'm with you. The vibes of this team, like Chad, like you talked to him, super cool guy. I knew Philip was all right as soon as he ran it down on Zach Top in our tournament grapes. Like during the Trick or Treat invitation, I'm like, okay, he's all right for that. Yeah, no, this team, I feel like this looks like a fun one to play for. And honestly, if we're talking about a team that is developing new prospects as well, and having players that are newer to tier 2, I think that's going to be really great. I think having good team vibes is a huge boon, especially for a very young player like Toasty, making him comfortable and, just having fun and playing the game, I think is something that can make a huge difference.
Yeah, this is also Lens's third year only competitively competing.
That's true.
This is his second year in NACL. He had basically a year on 100 Thieves Next, maybe even a split barely on 100 Thieves Next, where before that it was just kind of playing in UPL and things like that. So the carries on this team are young, but I do think they are both very talented. Len specifically, we've seen him prove it just a little bit more than Toasty has so far. But I feel like they got some good veteran leadership to kind of guide them, both in terms of teaching them the game and teaching them how to have some fun, Hawk. So with all that being said, let's take a look at the average rank in the fan poll once again. Our audience did have them 5th. And when you look at the average rank, just slightly ahead of AoE, who was in 6th place. So what do we think? Higher, lower, or did we get this one just about right?
And so Grapes, we've had basically 2 tiers so far, right? We had the bottom 3, and then we've had like the middle 3 of Mirage Alliance, AoE, and now Fear kind of leading that pack. And I know I said in the last episode I would have AoE higher, and maybe on that basis, like you would think, oh, I'd put AoE, Fear lower since like they would just swap places. But honestly, Grapes, I think I'm feeling pretty just right. I think Fear is going to be a very solidly middle of the pack team. I think this team can take games off of anybody, and especially I talked about the aforementioned volatility. There are going to be games where Chad just 1v9s, where Len's just 1v9s, maybe hell Toasty could 1v9, right? And I think the overall quality of players on this team, especially if Toasty ends up having a great split, is very high. So this will be a competitive team. I'm going to feel pretty in the Goldilocks zone here. I think this team is right about right. 5th, 6th seems good to me, which clearly, if based on the 5.57 average, is where the community's at as well.
Yeah. Not to spoil what's coming up next, Talk, but we do have, if you remember, between our 8th place team and 7th place team, Mirage Alliance, there was a bit of a jump in terms of the average rank between Maryville and Mirage Alliance. There's going to be another pretty big jump here from our 5th place team in Fear and our 4th place team, which we'll be able to talk about a little bit more tomorrow. So it seems like the community sentiment is that these are middle of the pack teams: Mirage Alliance, AoE, and Cincy Fear. This team I think goes as far as as their newer players take them, whether that's Toasty, Daption, or even Lens coming in. If they're able to deliver, I feel like Philip and Chad will be able to kind of follow behind them, and maybe they can jump one of the teams that we're going to talk about next if the other one kind of takes a bit of a spill. But in terms of the talent that they have currently right now, I think this is just about right. And I think I said the same for AoE. There's a world where you could swap them in my head, but right now, I'm feeling pretty good about this fifth place rank. And that is always subject to change, because when you take a look at the players who were on this team last year, where they had Faisal, Perry, Shochi, and Minwei, who were all very new and never played at this level before. We kind of ranked them pretty low to start the split off, and then once players like Shochi and Faisal kind of emerged as the best best solo laners in the entire league, obviously they jumped up. So if these younger players can do that, this team can move up. But right now I have them right about the same.
Yeah, definitely a team that is very exciting with their young rookie prospects. It's so funny calling Daption a rookie, but yeah, their young rookie prospects here, Cincinnati Fear. Let us know on social media at Salty Runback Pod if you agree with the community power ranking and our analysis. If not, you can take it with a pinch of salt. Make sure to tune in for all of the NACL action starting on Saturday, January 20th in the evening. You're not gonna want to miss anything. We are only 5 days away. With that being said, I've been Hawk. That's been Grapes. See you next time.